A former casino surveillance technician just revealed something that will change the way you look at every spin you've ever taken. What he exposed isn't about slot RTPs or payout tables or bonus frequencies. It's something deeper, more hidden, and far more unsettling. According to multiple former casino employees, every single spin you take, whether you're on a penny slot or a high-limit machine, is being tracked, analysed, and monitored in real time. And the casinos aren't just watching how much you bet. They're watching you. Your habits, your reactions, your mood, your risk tolerance, your breaking point. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how casinos watch every spin you take, why they do it, and how they use that information to keep you playing longer than you ever intended. Let's start with something most players don't realize. The moment you sit down at the slot machine, even before you insert your player's card, the system begins building a behavioral profile on you. A former Slot 4 technician named Aaron explained that every machine on the floor is connected through a central monitoring network. This network tracks dozens of data points per second. Bet size, spin speed, session length, number of cash-in events, how long you hesitate before increasing your bet, how quickly you press the button after a win or a loss. According to Aaron, the casino's analytics system pulls this data not as random numbers, but as indicators of who you are as a gambler. There was a regular player the technicians called Mr. Midnight. He didn't insert a card, didn't talk to anybody, and always arrived after 11 p.m. every Friday. But despite his anonymity, the system identified him within 3 visits. Why? Because of his unique behavioral pattern. He always started with $400 in cash, always played between $1.20 and $1.80 per spin, and always increased his bet size exactly 2 minutes after hitting a bonus. That pattern flagged him in the system as someone who chases momentum, meaning he's susceptible to continuing long sessions after a moderate win. So even though he thought he was invisible, the casino had already psychologically categorized him. This is where it gets interesting. Casinos don't just track this to observe trends. They use it to manipulate your experience. Former data analysts explained that machines can send prompts to the casino host system based on your behavior. If the analytics system detects you're slowing down because you're losing too quickly, it might trigger an automatic check on this player alert to a nearby host. That host might just stroll by and casually offer you a drink, just enough of a dopamine nudge to distract you and keep you going. According to the leaks, some high-end casinos even have systems designed to send timed offers to the machine's small promotional screen when they sense you're about to walk away. But you might be thinking, this only happens if I use my player's card. Wrong. Former casino systems engineers confirmed that modern slot machines track all play, carded or uncarded. The difference is that carded play ties directly to your personal identity. Uncarded play is still analysed for behaviour and trends, but the system labels you as an anonymous behavioural profile until it can identify you. And believe it or not, casinos have several ways of identifying you even if you don't swipe a card, but more on that later. One of the most unsettling revelations came from a former casino surveillance operator named Lucas. According to him, the surveillance team doesn't just watch for cheating. They watch for emotional patterns. If a player looks aggravated, distressed, tilted, overly celebratory, or deeply focused, surveillance can mark their behaviour. Now you might wonder, why does the casino care about your facial expressions? Because your emotional state influences how much you're likely to bet next. Surveillance operators aren't psychologists, but the systems they use are increasingly powered by emotion detection algorithms. Former employees described software that analyzes micro-expressions, body language, and even the pace of your movements to identify your mood. There was one player named Danielle. According to surveillance reports, she had a habit of biting her lip whenever she was down more than $300. The system didn't know her name at first, but it recognized this emotional pattern. Over time, those behavioral cues were logged as part of her anonymous profile. And when Danielle finally signed up for the loyalty program, months later, her player profile was retroactively linked to the massive amount of behavioral data they had already collected on her. Meaning the casino had her entire emotional history on file from the moment she first stepped in, despite her thinking she was previously anonymous. Now let's talk about one of the most powerful forms of casino monitoring: Predictive analytics. This is where every spin you take becomes part of a larger algorithm designed to predict your future actions. According to former casino analysts, predictive models are built to estimate exactly how much longer you'll play, what bet size you're likely to switch to next, whether you'll chase losses, and whether you're likely to increase your risk-taking after a small win. The casino knows that if you've been betting 75 cents per spin for 30 minutes and suddenly jump to $2.25 per spin, there's a high chance you're entering a psychological state known as gambler's escalation. And that state is exactly what casinos want, because it often leads to bigger losses. One former analyst named Michelle described an internal model called turnpoint probability. This model calculated the likelihood that a player would leave soon based on the past 30 minutes of their betting habits. If a player's turnpoint probability exceeded a certain threshold, say 78%, the system triggered a retention protocol. That protocol might send a host to the floor, or it might activate a machine promotion, such as "You have unlocked a mystery bonus." These bonuses aren't truly random. They're strategically timed psychological interventions. Another former employee spoke of a player called Bookstore Bill, a guy who always brought a novel with him and read between spins. According to insiders, Bill had a unique behavioral signature. He would always lower his bet size right before cashing out. The casino system learned this habit over time, labeling him as a withdraw prepper, someone who's preparing to leave. As soon as Bill lowered his bet size, the system flagged it, and a nearby host would walk over and make small talk. Having any luck tonight? This tiny interruption often got Bill to keep playing for another 10 or 20 spins. Multiply that by thousands of players per day, and you start to see just how calculated every moment is. But if you think the monitoring stops at your machine or your behavior, you're mistaken. Casinos also monitor your financial tendencies. Former cage employees and ATM service workers explained that casinos track how often you withdraw cash from on-site ATMs, prepaid card kiosks, or even cashier cage withdrawals. Let's say the system notices you tend to withdraw $200 every 45 minutes. That pattern is logged and used to predict your bankroll endurance. If the casino knows you tend to withdraw your final $200 after a long losing streak, they might try to keep you engaged long enough to trigger that final withdrawal. According to former employees, this is why ATMs are often placed in strategic locations visible from key gambling zones. They want that walk to the ATM to feel quick, seamless, and inevitable. And it doesn't stop there. Some casinos use Wi-Fi tracking to log the movement of your phone. Even if you never connect to the casino's network, your phone pings access points. Former IT workers revealed that casinos use anonymized device IDs to create heat maps of players, showing where they walk, how long they linger in certain areas, and which machines they gravitate toward. Over time, these anonymized profiles become extremely precise when combined with surveillance footage and even a single moment of identity verification. Say, showing ID at the cashier. They can attach your identity to the previously anonymous device profile. A particularly interesting revelation came from a former casino AI contractor. He worked on a system designed to detect changes in betting pressure. Betting pressure refers to how forcefully and quickly you press the spin button. The contractor described how the pressure increased during emotional tilt states. And yes, modern slot buttons have pressure sensors. Not to control outcomes, they can't do that, but to feed behavioral data back to the system. If you're suddenly pressing harder, the system might interpret it as frustration, leading to a high tilt probability. That tilt probability is then fed into the predictive model, signaling that you're entering a volatile emotional zone where you're likely to make larger or more reckless bets. According to insiders, this is precisely when the system wants to keep you playing. Now, here's where it becomes even more troubling. Former employees disclose something they call dynamic engagement windows. These are time periods during your session where the casino system believes you're most likely to increase your bet size. During these windows, the machine might display more visually stimulating animations, or you might experience more near misses, or the casino might subtly adjust the lighting around the area. Not to alter your chances, but to alter your engagement level. The goal is to push you into a psychological state where you feel compelled to keep spinning. One former technician shared the story of a player named Linda. Linda played a specific cluster of machines every weekend. Over time, The casino system noticed that Linda had a very predictable dynamic engagement window around the 90-minute mark. After 90 minutes of play, she'd feel a sudden burst of optimism and increase her bet size. The casino didn't change the machine's odds, but they did place more visually exciting machines near the ones she favoured, ensuring she sat in the same cluster where her behaviour was most predictable. According to the leak, Linda lost thousands over several months without ever realising she was the subject of a psychological map. But perhaps the most invasive form of monitoring is one few players ever consider: facial recognition. Former surveillance staff revealed that many modern casinos integrate facial recognition software directly into their surveillance feeds. This software identifies repeat visitors, categorizes them by risk level, and flags known advantage players within seconds. The moment you step onto the floor, the system might already know who you are, how often you visit, how much you typically spend, and whether you tend to chase losses. And yes, facial recognition can be used to match uncarded players to their historical behavior. One surveillance operator described how a regular player tried to avoid being tracked by never using a card, wearing different hats, and even shaving his beard every few weeks. But the facial recognition software still identified him with an accuracy rate of above 90%. Once the system knew his identity, all his historical anonymous behavioral data was retroactively tied to his record. So what does all of this mean? It means that every spin you take is monitored, not just for gambling outcomes, but for behavioral insights. Casinos have turned gambling into a psychological science, tracking your decisions, predicting your next moves, and shaping the environment around you to maximize your losses. But what many players don't realize is that facial recognition isn't just used for security or identifying advantage players. Some casinos also use it to monitor player fatigue. According to former surveillance workers, the AI can detect signs of exhaustion: slowed blinking, drooping posture, rubbing eyes. Why would a casino care if you're tired? Because tired players make faster decisions, have worse judgment, and are more prone to chasing losses. If the system detects you're tired but still gambling, it might send a host your way offering you a free coffee or an energy drink. Not to help you rest, but to keep you alert enough to continue playing. There was a man named Oliver who visited his local casino almost every Thursday. Oliver worked long hours and often arrived at the casino looking worn out. The surveillance AI flagged fatigue patterns on Oliver almost every time he visited, and hosts were consistently dispatched to offer him caffeine or complimentary snacks. At first, Oliver thought the casino was just being nice, but according to insiders, the timing was too perfect to be coincidence. The casino system increased their attention to him at the exact times when fatigue would normally cause a player to walk away. And despite being exhausted, Oliver stayed longer, sometimes hours longer, than he planned. But here's something even more surprising. Former employees revealed that casinos also categorize players based on their emotional volatility profile. This profile scores you on how drastically your behavior shifts in response to wins and losses. If you're the type who gets overly excited after a small win, the system tags you as an excitability-prone player. This means small visual rewards and frequent minor payouts will keep you hooked. But if you're the type who becomes withdrawn or irritated after a loss, the system categorizes you differently, perhaps as sensitivity-prone, meaning it might try to nudge you with more near misses to keep your hope alive. Casinos love the excitability-prone group because they often increase their bets after a minor win, believing a bigger win is just around the corner. Former slot analysts said that some machines are specifically deployed in areas where these players frequent. These machines are visually loud, colourful, and have frequent bonus features. Not necessarily high-paying ones, but enough to keep excitement high. And then there are the sensitivity-prone players. They get placed near machines with a lot of small, quiet wins and soothing background sounds. These machines don't intimidate, they comfort. Both types of machines serve the same purpose: keep players spinning. One of the most shocking stories came from a former casino host named Jenna. She described a middle-aged couple who visited the casino every month. They never used loyalty cards. They always paid in cash. They kept to themselves. But the casino still tracked them through facial recognition. Over several months, the system noticed that the husband always cashed out after losing exactly $500, while the wife would almost always chase losses up to $300. The casino categorized them as patterned limit players. The next time they visited, the system sent a notification to Jenna to offer them a dinner voucher, valid only after 10 p.m. Why after 10 p.m? Because data showed that after 10 p.m, their impulse control was lower, and they were more likely to exceed their usual loss limits. The couple accepted the dinner voucher, stayed longer, and ended up losing double their usual amount. Casinos call this temporal vulnerability mapping. Former employees explain that people gamble differently at different times of day. These patterns become predictable with enough data. Maybe you're calm in the afternoon, but reckless after midnight. Maybe you start conservatively, but get bolder on your third visit. Maybe you always chase losses after your third drink. The casino system maps this, labels it, and adapts to it. Speaking of drinks, there's something even darker tied to alcohol service. According to former beverage supervisors, casinos keep track of how many drinks each player consumes. Not just to cut off intoxicated patrons, they track consumption because it influences gambling patterns. One former supervisor, Martin, explained that the system could estimate your blood alcohol content based on the number of drinks you've been served, the time between each drink, and the size of the glassware. If your estimated BAC reached a certain threshold where your inhibition was lowered, but you were still functional, the system flagged you as high-value active. That meant you were likely to take bigger risks, make impulsive decisions, and ignore loss limits. And yes, hosts were sometimes instructed to check in on players at this point. The goal wasn't to offer help. The goal was to keep the player engaged at the exact moment their decision-making was at its weakest. Casinos don't break laws doing this. They exploit psychology, and they're very good at it. Another former employee disclosed something called the win anticipation model. This model doesn't predict whether you'll win, it predicts when you expect to win. If the system believes your expectation is rising, based on increased bet sizes, increased spin speed, or other behavioral cues, it knows you're entering a high engagement state. In that state, players are more likely to ignore how much they've lost and keep playing. Analytics systems track these engagement spikes and might even adjust the frequency of non-paying but visually exciting spins, lots of bright animations, but no real payout, to maintain that heightened anticipation. But the most controversial claim made by former staff concerns something called session shaping. According to several insiders, casino systems can identify when a player is nearing the end of a losing streak. Not because they can alter outcomes, they can't legally do that, but because of statistical cycles. For example, if the system notices you've had a long run of dead spins on a high volatility machine, it knows the game is mathematically due to eventually deliver something, anything, that appears like hope. Former employees insist that casinos capitalize on this by intervening at the psychological breaking point. There's a story about a man named Raymond. He was a semi-regular who always played the same bank of machines. One night, he suffered a stretch of 200-plus losing spins on a high-volatility game. Surveillance tagged him as being near tilt collapse, a state where players mentally disengage and are likely to walk away. But before he could cash out, the machine hit a bonus. Not because it was rigged. It was just probability catching up. But the casino had been monitoring him, waiting for that moment. And because they knew a bonus was statistically likely soon, a host had been stationed nearby, ready to offer him a free play coupon the moment the bonus ended. The timing made Raymond believe the casino cared about his experience. He stayed for another hour and lost another $600. Casinos don't mean to cheat. They use math and timing like a scalpel. Let's not forget table games. Many players think table games offer anonymity because the dealer handles the cards and chips. But former pit bosses revealed that table gameplay is tracked in surprising ways. Dealers log your estimated average bet, your playtime, and your win-loss pattern. Pit bosses often watch for betting shifts. If you suddenly increase your bet after a series of losses, they note it. If you consistently chase losses, the system tags you as an emotionally reactive player. This affects whether they send hosts your way, how quickly they comp your drinks, and how much attention the staff gives you. In some casinos, Table game areas are equipped with RFID-enabled chips. These chips transmit the value of each bet in real time. The casino knows your exact wager on every hand of blackjack, every spin of roulette, every roll of the dice. And because these chips are tied to your seat, the system can build a perfect log of your play, even if you never use a card. If the system detects you're on a winning streak, surveillance may watch you more closely to see if you're using any advantage techniques. If you're on a losing streak, they may send more drink servers your way. Everything is calculated. One former pit supervisor shared a story about a man named Victor, a serious blackjack player who prided himself on anonymity. He never used a card, always bought in with cash and stayed under identification thresholds. But the casino still tracked him. They recognized his face, monitored his play with RFID chips, and logged every risky decision he made. The system categorized Victor as an adrenaline decision maker, someone who bets erratically in response to excitement rather than strategy. Knowing this, hosts approached him with offers at moments when he was most vulnerable, after big swings. Victor always believed these hosts just happened to catch him at the right moment. Little did he know the casino had a decade of his behavior mapped out. Another layer of casino monitoring involves movement patterns. Former security employees explain that casinos use something called floor throw analysis. This tracks where players walk, how long they stay in certain areas, and which games they gravitate toward. Even without facial recognition, many casinos use ceiling-mounted sensors that map your motion anonymously. But as soon as you interact with anything that ties to your identity, ID checks, loyalty card sign-up, app login, the casino links your anonymous motion data to your real identity. After that, your walk through the casino is effectively logged. One former casino analytics employee said the casinos even track restroom visits. If they notice you tend to visit the restroom after losing a certain amount, say $200, they know you enter a reflection or reset phase around that loss point. They may use this info to deploy offers or promotional messages shortly after you return to the floor. A perfectly timed nudge. Let's talk about app tracking. Many casinos have mobile apps. These apps offer bonus play, points tracking, and hotel booking. But they also track your location when you're inside the casino. If you have the app installed, and especially if you agree to location permissions, the casino knows exactly where you go in real time. They know which machines you approached, which areas you avoided, and how long you stayed at a table. Combined with your past behavior, the app's data helps form a complete picture of who you are as a gambler. One particularly disturbing moment came from a former IT contractor who said that casinos are experimenting with proximity-based engagement. If the app detects that you're standing near a high-limit area, it may send you a push notification. Feeling lucky? High-limit bonuses available now. According to insiders, these messages are triggered when the system detects players are near certain threshold zones, areas statistically correlated with high spending or emotional play. Now let's explore the most hidden form of monitoring, sound analysis. Some casinos monitor the ambient noise around players. Former surveillance workers said that microphones built into some areas of the casino floor aren't just for security. They're designed to detect emotional cues. Loud sighs, muttered curses, excited cheers. These sounds help the system gauge your emotional state. For example, if a bank of machines registers multiple frustrated vocalizations, the casino might rearrange the machines during low traffic hours to increase engagement. They might move high engagement machines closer, adjust lighting, or tweak the presentation of certain games. According to one former casino entertainment director, casinos even analyze crowd noise to determine where winners are. A loud cheer from a jackpot triggers attention from nearby players. The casino positions high engagement machines near these zones to capitalize on the ripple effect of excitement. Let's not forget environmental manipulation. Former employees exposed the casinos adjust temperature, lighting, and even fragrance based on player activity. If a section of the casino starts to see declining engagement, the air conditioning might be adjusted to make it slightly cooler. Cooler temperatures increase alertness. Subtle fragrance diffusers can release scents associated with excitement or comfort. These adjustments aren't random. They're timed with player flow and behavioral predictions. One former employee described a moment when a cluster of machines was underperforming. Players weren't staying long. The casino introduced a subtle citrus scent associated with energy and freshness, and engagement increased noticeably. Players stayed longer, bet more, and won less. According to insiders, the environment is part of the casino's psychological arsenal. The final part of casino tracking involves something called pattern integrity monitoring. This system doesn't track you. It tracks the patterns of your play relative to expected behavior. If you consistently beat statistical expectations, the system flags you. If you're too lucky for too long, surveillance investigates. Former employees say that the system is designed to protect the house, but it also keeps an eye on players who break patterns. And once you're flagged, your sessions are watched intensely. So what does all of this mean for you as a player? It means the casino doesn't just see your money. It sees you, your habits, your emotions, your weaknesses, your impulses. Every spin you take is a piece of data. Every win fuels your engagement. Every loss fuels your chase. And everything you do on that casino floor is monitored and shaped to keep you playing longer. Former employees say the most important thing for players to realize is that casinos don't want you to win. They want you to keep playing. And the smartest gamblers aren't the ones who try to outplay the machine. They're the ones who know when to walk away because they understand the system is stacked from all angles. If you walk into a casino thinking it's just you against the machine, you're already at a disadvantage. You're playing against a billion-dollar analytic system watching your every move. And while you can't stop the casino from monitoring your behavior, you can control your decisions. The best defense against being psychologically manipulated is awareness. Knowing the tricks, recognizing the nudges, and setting hard limits that you stick to, those are your real tools. Casinos aren't afraid of players who win occasionally. They're afraid of players who understand the game outside the reels. So the next time you sit down as a machine and press that glowing button, remember, as the reels spin on the screen, you are the one being observed, measured, and predicted. Stay sharp, stay smart, and never forget that in a casino, the house doesn't just watch your money. They watch every spin you take.